What began as heavy rainfall on the morning of Monday, July 14th, quickly escalated into a climate emergency that brought entire cities to a standstill, leaving millions of people stranded without transportation, shelter, or safety in the midst of chaos. From the early hours of the day, a slow-moving storm system crept along the I-95 corridor, directly impacting states such as New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. The National Weather Service issued flash flood warnings for more than 50 million people, as authorities warned this was an extremely dangerous and potentially deadly situation. In New Jersey, the impact was particularly severe. As the downpours intensified, towns like Plainfield, Scotch Plains, New Providence, and North Plainfield were rapidly submerged. In Union County, one of the hardest-hit areas, residents watched as streets turned into rivers and cars floated like toys, colliding with each other or with the fronts of homes. A Plainfield resident shared that her car was swept away from her driveway to the middle of the street. "It happened so fast we didn't even have time to move anything," she said while standing knee-deep in muddy water. In several neighborhoods, firefighters used inflatable boats to rescue people trapped inside homes and vehicles. The situation prompted Governor Phil Murphy to declare a state of emergency across all of New Jersey before noon. The declaration allowed for a rapid mobilization of emergency resources, the opening of temporary shelters, and a coordinated response from rescue teams. In North Plainfield alone, over 200 emergency calls were logged within just a few hours, overwhelming first responders. The scale of the emergency also brought major highways to a halt. Route 22, Interstate 78, and sections of the New Jersey Turnpike were closed due to impassable floodwaters. Near Exit 12 of the Turnpike, cars were completely submerged, and rescues had to be carried out right on the flooded roads. In New Providence, the scenes were just as dramatic. Viral videos showed rushing currents running through the city center, dragging debris, trash, and vehicles along. Some basements were completely flooded, and an electrical fire in a home added to the panic already spreading through the neighborhood. Across the Hudson River, New York was not spared. All 5 boroughs were placed under flash flood warnings as the storm quickly overwhelmed drainage systems. Subway stations flooded violently. At the 28th Street station, stairwells turned into waterfalls, with water crashing onto platforms and trapping passengers inside trains. Manhattan subway lines 1, 2, and 3 were suspended for several hours. Staten Island Railway also shut down operations in both directions. Though partial service resumed after 11 p.m., officials warned that more disruptions were still possible. New York's road traffic was paralyzed. The Cross Bronx Expressway was closed in both directions, as were stretches of FDR Drive and Harlem River Drive, all submerged under standing water. The New York City Department of Transportation urged people to avoid unnecessary travel and to use alternate routes. Just north of the city, Westchester County also suffered serious flooding. In residential areas, vehicles were trapped in water up to their hoods. Emergency crews conducted evacuations as rain continued relentlessly into the evening. The situation at regional airports was equally chaotic. Newark Liberty, JFK, and LaGuardia all suspended flights due to the storm. Nationwide, over 1,900 flights were canceled, and another 10,000 were delayed. United Airlines, based at Newark, released a statement confirming that safety concerns had forced major operational shutdowns. Passengers were stranded in terminals for hours, some inside planes that couldn't take off or land. On social media, one traveler reported circling in the air near New York for 90 minutes with only an hour of fuel left. Another posted about sitting at Newark Airport for over 4 hours with no updates. In Pennsylvania, the town of Mount Joy in Lancaster County became another hotspot. There, rescue teams responded to over 30 emergency calls and carried out at least 16 evacuations after floodwaters rushed into residential basements. Authorities reported rainfall totals exceeding 7 inches in some areas. Connecticut was also hit hard. Counties like Fairfield and Litchfield reported river overflows and street flooding, especially in towns like Stamford and Greenwich, where basements were filled with water and cars were swept away. Back in New Jersey, the National Weather Service warned that cities like Newark, Elizabeth, Summit, Millbourne, Westfield, and Bayonne faced high risks of flash flooding. Some areas of Union County saw rainfall rates as high as 4 inches per hour, more than any urban drainage system could handle. In towns like Roselle Park and Scotch Plains, the damage was extensive. Streets were littered with debris, fallen trees, and abandoned vehicles. In some places, floodwaters reached halfway up car windows, forcing drivers to flee on foot. Local authorities opened evacuation centers in school gyms and community centers. In North Plainfield, the Municipal Recreation Center became an emergency shelter for dozens of families who had lost access to their homes. Thankfully, no fatalities were reported, though there were multiple injuries and rescues in extremely dangerous conditions. Another serious concern was power loss. In Queens, more than 1,000 people lost electricity, particularly in Richmond Hill, where overhead power lines collapsed due to water damage and fallen vegetation. By 10 p.m., meteorologists said the worst of the storm had passed, and any remaining rain would likely be less intense. Still, flood warnings remained in effect through midnight, especially in areas already saturated with water. Tuesday morning, July 15th, brought a new challenge: extreme heat. Forecasts warned of heat index values exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit, posing additional health risks for people without power or still staying in temporary shelters. As the storm slowly moved out of the region, cleanup efforts began. City officials warned that recovery could take weeks. Entire streets would need rebuilding, sewage systems would require inspection, and hundreds of families would begin the long process of filing insurance claims and salvaging what was left. Beyond the visible destruction, this weather event served as a harsh reminder of how vulnerable modern cities are to extreme weather. From shut-down subways to closed airports, the storm revealed a critical weakness in the region's infrastructure. Meteorologists pointed to a nearly stationary frontal system combined with hot, humid air as the main cause of the prolonged rainfall. Experts noted that this combination is becoming more common due to climate change, increasing the likelihood of similar storms in the future. The July 14th emergency is a clear call to action. Cities must strengthen stormwater systems, develop better evacuation plans, and modernize infrastructure to withstand 21st century weather threats. This wasn't just another storm. It was a symptom of a larger, worsening pattern. In the face of this new reality, local, state, and federal governments must work together to implement long-term solutions. From reinforcing bridges to building flood-resistant homes, the challenge is monumental, but necessary.